Shalom, I'm Dr. Yasapa. Welcome to today's episode of Astro-theology. Give me 1 second. We still have a couple minutes before we'll start, and we have to wait on the others to come here. So give me 1 second. Let me just check to make sure the stream is okay. Also, please invite your friends and your family. Share the link with them, let them know that we're going live today, or well, rather right now, okay? So also like and share the video too, because that helps with the algorithm so that people will find out about the video. So give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, we'll be starting shortly. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll have to wait for the others. I'll just get us going. Give me 1 second while I get the screen share together. All right. Shalom, Jimmy. Shalom, Jimmy. How's your day so far? Or how was your day, rather? I got that backwards. Okay, welcome, Shalom. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. What you're looking at right now is the 101 Ancient Ibriath course. This is a streaming course. There are 113 lessons. You can get this, and I highly recommend you get this. This will help you return to the Most High because you'll learn Ibriath, which is our original language. Okay, this is part of our heritage. And Zion Law School has made it available for you for $1 for a one-day trial. There's no doctrine in this course. This is a streaming course, and it's only $10 per month to subscribe. So it's basically free, and you can cancel anytime. There's no contract. You're going to learn all there is to know about the Ibriath pictographs, Ibriath or Hebraic culture, grammar, parts of speech, so on and so forth. You're going to get a deep dive into those, into the topic of grammar, and also Ibriath word studies. All right, and you see, you can pick up a pretty good vocabulary, 225 vocabulary words. All right, so if you scroll down here, make sure you read everything. So when you scroll down, you'll see that the market value of the course is actually $10,000, easy, but you're getting this for $10 per month and only a $1 for a one-day trial. So scroll down and then click on subscribe. If you go further, you'll see parts 1, 2, and 3, where you actually see the curriculum, okay, the syllabus. So go through this on your own time, but you'll see part 1, go through it carefully on your own time. This is something that every Yasharala man, woman, and child should have and study and really master, okay? This really should be mastered. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So go check out the topics. This is your background or introductory information. It has everything that you need to know to prepare you for part 2, which is the pictographs, okay? The pictographs, and you'll also be introduced to some vocabulary, well, not some, but a lot of vocabulary words, okay? All right, and this has the all-important Hebrew versus Greek paradigm that we rely on so heavily. It's also, part 1 is also going to give you the historical background, okay, and a lot of the ancient artifacts with the pictographs on it, all right? So part 2, as you can see, it has the pictographs, vocabulary words, and it even has how pictographs are used in grammar, okay? And when you go further, it has part 3, it has the Ibriath grammar with the all-important Ibriath root word system, and then parts of speech, so on and so forth. So this is a very comprehensive, it is an intense course. It's an intense course. This is going to give you the background that you need in order to be able to translate the scriptures on your own without the help of a pastor, of a rabbi. You'll know tons and tons, much more than your present teacher, if you have one. Okay, you will be independent, an independent learner from the pastors, the rabbis, Moshe, so on and so forth. Okay, this is not biblical Hebrew and it's not modern Hebrew. It is Ibriad. It's completely different in many respects. All right. So with that said, let's take a look at Jeremiah 8:8 to understand why learning Ibriad is so important. Are you with us, Jimmy?
Shalom, my Dr. Yusapa.
Okay, can you take us through Jeremiah 8:8, please?
Absolutely. All right, here we are, Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. Looks like you have it in the interlineary version here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you have not already.
Okay, can you continue, Jimmy?
Here we are, Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. As we look at the different rendering of this one particular verse, but we will take a look at the amplified version. Here we are. How can you say we are wise, and the law of the Most High is with us, and we are learned in its language and teachings? Behold, the truth is that the lying pen of the scribes has made the law into a lie, a mere code of ceremonial observance.
Okay, continue.
All right. So as you read it, how can you say that we are wise and the law of the Most High is with us and we are learned? And this is what Dr. Yusapa is talking about here, when we are learned in its language and teachings. And as you notice in the beginning here, when Dr. Yusapa offered you the Hebrew 101, because the Ibriac is the original language, which is the language that Moshe wrote in. So therefore, if you will learn on the grammar, on the paradigm of the language, it will help you to better understand. So as you read, the same way all these different authors and these different groups render these writings into these different ones you see here, then you will be able to better render it accordingly, according to our ancestors, according to the original document. Behold, the truth is that the pen of the scribes, we are talking about our ancestors. We are talking about, like Dr. Yusapa mentioned, the Black priesthood. They have turned it into a lie. So behold, the truth is that the lying pen of the scribes has made the law into a lie, giving us what we have today, the code of ceremonial observances, which we know it is the church. Dr. Yusapa.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. So that's why learning Ibriac is so important. Very, very often, what is written in English in your Bible is not the same as what is written in Ibriac. That cannot be stressed enough. Also, when you learn the pictographs and you learn how to do Ibriac word studies, you can extract meaning locked inside of each Ibriac word, locked inside each pictograph. You can actually extract it and discover meaning that is not in a lexicon. So that takes you really, really deep into it, and it really puts you at a high level of learning. But this requires learning skills and analytical abilities that you may not have already, okay? Most people definitely don't have any idea about the pictographs and how to do a Ibriac word study. But analytical skills, critical thinking skills, those do cross over, okay? So it will be very, very beneficial for you and your family to subscribe to this course. All right, so let's get into it, Jimmy.
Yes, let's do.
So let's see.
Again, for those of you who would like to call in, please let us know. And Dr. Yusapa will go ahead and put the phone number that you can call in if you have a question. You can either use the chat or request the phone to call in so we can go ahead and get you live on here as well.
All right. So let me blow this up, increase it. Oops. Can you see that, Jimmy? Is that good?
Yep, I can see it. It's up.
Okay, so here we are, part 2, the Star of Bethlehem. All right, let's start at the quote, Jimmy.
All right. We do encourage you again to see part 1. We have 4 previous videos. This is number 5. Take a look at the other 4 previous ones. Get yourself familiar with the document. Again, this is life-changing information.
Well, before we start, I just had an idea. Let me go back to the web. Sorry about that, Jimmy.
Not a problem.
So I think in the last 2 videos, we had an example of the English rendering of an Ibriath word not being rendered accurately. So yesterday, I remember it was curses, which is an abstract, right?
Right. We did. So we basically discovered another one yesterday.
Yeah, I already knew about that one. So curses is not a good rendering, right? But that's not what it means in the original language. It doesn't mean curses. Our paradigm is concrete. Get this course and you'll understand what that's talking about, okay? That's what makes it critically important, because like Jimmy said, you'll be able to evaluate the quality of a translation in English, regardless of what Bible translation it is. And you'll be able to render or translate it yourself and do an even better job, make it even more accurate, or a more accurate rendering, so that it is the same or as similar as possible that it can be to the Ibriath actual meaning. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. But this is important, really, really important, because these nuances is what language is all about, and it makes all the difference in the world, okay?
And Dr. Isaba, if I may add, these nuances also what creates all the different doctrines.
Excellent.
Simple misunderstanding of a simple point, of a simple word that was given. You could then turn around, create a whole doctrine with it simply from not understanding the true meaning of what was said.
Excellent point. Excellent point. All right, so let's get, all right, Jimmy, it's on you.
All right. Here we are, part 2. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. Quoted by Matthew chapter 2, verse 2.
Okay, Jimmy, continue, please.
I return to this most important subject in which man is interested. Okay, so man is interested, to this most delightful science in which man can be instructed. I return to the positions of this great science, to which on Sunday evening last I brought up the convictions of the large auditory, which honored me in themselves with a most grateful attention.
Okay, so Jimmy, can you give us a summary of this paragraph, or would you like for me to?
If you would, Dr. Isaba.
Okay, thank you. So the important thing here, what the author is saying, and remember, scholars, this is not about what Dr. Isaba thinks or what Jimmy thinks. What we're doing is doing our best effort to interpret what's written on the page. That's what's important. And we're doing this from a literary point of view, not a religious, theological, or doctrinal point of view. Okay, so this is only about what's written, not about a belief system, okay, or trying to promote or push, evangelize some belief system. Okay, let's make that clear at the beginning. Now, the author is emphasizing the value of science. The value of science when you analyze any literary work, any book. Okay, so in this case, the science is linguistics, right? And also astrology, or the movement of the planets. The movement of the planets, not a spooky type of thing like that, just the movement of the planets. That's all that's meant by astrology. Okay, so we read in the other videos that we did, 1 through 4, the importance of critical thinking, thinking for yourself, and not relying on religious leaders, pastors, preachers, church leaders, what have you, to explain something to you, and then you accept it based upon because you like them, because you trust them, right? Or because you have not learned how to trust yourself and trust your own thoughts and thinking ability, right? So this is following that same stream, okay? Science and thinking for yourself, thinking analytically. Did you have something, Jimmy?
Nope, no, I'm with you. And I hope our audience are really paying close attention to this, because it is important.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let's continue, Jimmy.
All right. The Star of Bethlehem has brought us up to the stable door, and no person of rational understanding who has traveled with us thus far can any longer doubt that we are in possession of what you shall seek for in vain in any church or chapel, or from any other minister of the gospel in this metropolis. We are in possession of the key of the stable door. Ye have seen it pass into the lock. Ye have seen it ride over all the intricacies. Okay, we'll take a look at that. And involutions of the word. Ye have heard it without any strain or effort. Throw the bolt, and now the door is open.
So let's go through this, Jimmy.
All right.
Excuse me. So the Star of Bethlehem is what we began talking about. For those scholars, if this is your first time with us, from page 1 until now, we've been talking about the Star of Bethlehem and things having to do with that event, okay? So the stable door has to do with the manger, the door of the manger, right? The stable, horse stable, manger, Sagittarius, half man, half horse, okay? All right, so now let's go down. So the author is asserting here that he's provided enough information since he opened the book on page 1 that everybody should be able to understand that what he's saying is true. Now, of course, that's his opinion, right? You have to go back and watch those videos, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5 times, understand what the author has said, and then once you understand it, you decide whether or not he has proved his point. Okay, that's called thinking for yourself with the critical mind. Always ask questions. Never accept anything. All right. Now he goes on to say he has the key. So he has the key to the stable door that opens it, right? And what did he say that key is? The author said the key to understanding the New Testament, the Gospels, the Christ figure, all of the contradictions and confusion, all of these things, the key to understanding all of that is astro-theology. The key to understanding all of that is astro-theology, linguistics, science. And he said that he would prove it, right? So we're going to keep reading into the book to see if he's able to actually do what he said. Now, many people are already convinced that what he's saying is true, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine, right? People get to wherever they're going to go at their own pace. Let's put it like that. Okay.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said.
All right. So
as we move beyond Dr. Yusapa, we do have looks like Yah is one with us again. This individual was with us last night, and I quote: "This is destroying lies that have held us a nation back. Looks like us as a nation back for thousands of years. The Almighty Creator is awesome. I am so thankful for this. Let's return to Him only. No religion, no lies." Thank you for your input.
excellent, excellent. And we're going to focus on that thousands of years. Okay. Now, go back and watch yesterday's video. I don't want to give it away, but I want to hint at it because I want to encourage everyone to study. The topic right now that that Yasharala man just brought up is the thousands of years. Okay, so is that true? Is it true? The hint, there's a hint and an answer for you in the last video that I did. And also, go ahead, Jimmy.
No, he was actually with us yesterday.
Yes. Okay. Okay, great. Also watch the video that I did on House of Reawakening Minds. The title of the video is something about Judaism and Christianity. Oh, all Abrahamic religions are a hoax. All Abraham religions are a hoax. So go back and watch that video, and that's going to give you information that you can use to determine if that thousands of years is accurate. Okay, now that'll be fun. But it's going to cause you to think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's continue, Jimmy.
All right. And behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ, the capital Lord. And this shall be a sign. This is.
Let me interrupt you, Jimmy.
Go ahead, brother.
Focus and remember on what this sign is. This shall be a sign. This is referring to what? Keep that in mind, scholars. Okay, Jimmy, continue.
Let's continue. All right. That is, as I have shown, this Christ, the capital Lord, shall be one of the signs of the zodiac. Walk in, ye lovers of true science, ye friends of genuine and real learning, who would assist her in the arduous struggle in which she is engaged, and aid her rapidly approaching triumph her barbarous foes, the priests and the priest-ridden dunces, who, with all their pretended zeal and attachment to the gospel, when brought to the test of national criticism, stand convicted of knowing no more about the gospel than the gospel knows about them. They have but fed on the husk and shells of knowledge. Here we have the kernel. Dr. Isapa, please help us understand this.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. All right, so the issue is the sign. What's the sign? The author is saying that there are 12 signs, the signs of the zodiac, right? Okay, and recall that the Christ figure takes on the characteristics and attributes of each sign when he enters into it. Okay, continue further. So at that time, the sign was Sagittarius, right?
Right.
And the Christ figure was in the stable or the manger. The sign was the Sagittarius, half man, half horse, holding the bow and the arrow. So the Christ figure took on the characteristics and attributes of the zodiac sign Sagittarius. Now the author says about science, well, he compares science to religion or a belief system. Okay, so science will beat the religious or belief system every time. And these barbarous foes are the people who push belief systems and religion, who are the priest, right? The priest-ridden dunces, okay? And these people pretend that they know everything about the gospel, but according to this author, they don't know anything, okay? All right, but science has the kernel. So in other words, the husk, or is it? Yeah, the husk and the shells, they don't have any nutritional value. But the kernel or the nut or the seed is what we eat, and we get nutrition from it, right? Okay, do you want to continue reading, or is any questions or comment, Jimmy, you have, or anybody in the comment section?
No, but can we take a look up some of these words, Dr. Isapa, like the
okay, which one?
Because we as always, we want to show it so that the individuals know that this is not Dr. Isapa saying, as we have described. We are looking at the document for what the document is.
Okay, which word do you want? So I'm going to the browser now. Can you tell me so I can?
Yeah. It looks like let's take a look at the fed on the husk. HUSKS.
Okay, husk, the outer membranous or grain envelope of some fruits or seeds, as that of a walnut or ear of corn. What's the next one?
Gotta get back to the other one. The next one I believe was kernel.
Kernel. Okay. Kernel 1, the inner soft part of a seed, fruit, stone, or nut. Okay, what's the next one?
Can we go back to the document?
Oh, okay, all right. Okay. So let me just point out again that these barbarous foes, this is beliefs, a belief system, right? A belief system, in this case, religious belief system pushed by a priest. It is in opposition to science, which is real learning. Real learning. Science is based on observation and logic and experimentation, whereas beliefs are just what you feel and what you think. Okay. Was there anything else, Jimmy? Is that it?
Nothing. That was about it. A shell of knowledge. Here we have the kernel. Okay, we have the seed. All right. I'll go ahead and continue.
Yeah, okay.
But why, say they, make we such a parade of our learning? Why this apparatus of philology, criticism, and science, set before minds so little able to appreciate, so incompetent to judge, as we must suppose the mind of the many to be? And why? If I really wish to communicate knowledge and truth to the people, why not follow the example of the preachers of the gospel and speak in such language as is familiar to them, and so give them reading made easy in lectures adapted to the meanest capacity? My answer is, would men but be faithful to their own capacities?
Jimmy, let's stop right here, okay? All right, so but why, say they, make we such a parade of our learning? So a parade, why are you going to make a big deal out of how smart you know, how much you know about science? That's what this is saying, right? Like if you imagine a parade, right, it's very showy, right?
Right.
So they're saying, why are you going to throw this in our face? Why this apparatus of philology? So now let's go to philology and then we can continue so that our audience knows what's happening here. Do you want to continue, Jimmy?
Looks like philology, it's a noun, the study of literature and of disciplines relevant to literature or to language as used in literature.
Okay, and you want to go over here also, please?
Philology. Philology is the study of language in oral and written historical sources. It is the intersection of textual criticism, literary criticism, history, and linguistics. Philology is more commonly defined as the study of literary texts as well as oral and written records, the establishment of their authenticity in their original form.
Okay, we can stop right there. Is that sufficient, or do you want to read more of it?
Well, no, I think it's sufficient for me.
Okay, so you see, this is this is the science that our author is talking about: linguistics, right? History, historical context, the quotes from church fathers, so on and so forth. All right. So the author is saying that that is superior to a belief system. The science is superior to a belief system. Okay, all right. Apparatus of philology, criticism, science. Okay, set before minds so little to appreciate, so incompetent to judge, as we must suppose the minds of so many to be. It appears that the priest may be saying, well, our followers, they are not able to understand, right? So why even waste your time teaching them philology, textual criticism, and science, linguistics? They're not interested and they don't understand, right?
Right.
Okay, and why, if I really wish to communicate knowledge and truth to the people, why not follow the example of the preachers of the gospel and speak in such language as is familiar to them, and so give them reading made easy? Y'all see that? And lectures adapted to the meanest capacity. In other words, you're giving them nothing and they think they got something. Everybody see it?
See it.
So why not? Why would you waste science? Why would you waste science on these people? Okay, so Jimmy, continue.
Like this up, I just want to add briefly. You know, I recall in religion, it stood very strong, or at least the sect that I was in, stood very strong against science. Especially because it is claimed that science brought the evolution story. But when you look at a word like we just looked up here, which is philology, the linguistic, and this is what this particular author is referring to when he talks about science, I think we can all agree that it doesn't matter what religion or what sect, what camp, whatever it is that you may be following, whatever conviction you have, it was through what you read, right? But if you do not properly understand the linguistic of what you actually read, what was written, or the intent behind, or the writer's intent to you, the reader, then how can you truly, like the verse says, say that you were learned? So I think it is extremely, extremely important, especially for our viewers, not to try to view this as, oh, they're talking about science. Yeah, these people are saying, no, we don't have, no, listen, this is very important stuff, even with the Bible, whatever it is that you are convicted of, that you need to be learned in it, that you are sure that you are not being deceived.
And that takes us back to Jeremiah 8, verse 8. We'll go through it in the Amplified Bible. How can you say we are wise and the law of the Most High is with us and we are learned in its language? Okay, right. Let's go back there. Make the connection, scholars. Make the connection. Okay. And we are learned in its language and teachings. So Jeremiah is saying that we need to have some expertise in this linguistics and philology stuff, right, scholars, right? Behold, the truth is that the lying pen of the scribes have made the law into a lie, a mere code of ceremonial observances, a religion. So what we can glean from this is that if you learn linguistics and the other science, sciences involving language, then you can uncover these lies. You can uncover them. And that's what we do at Zion Law School. That's what the 101 Ancient Hebrew course is about. That's what our live Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time course is all about. All right. Okay, so let's go back to the document.
Let's go back to the document. Let me go ahead and say welcome. Roderick, Roderick's put in the chat, on my way to work, but glad I caught this live. There are a couple previous ones recorded. This is part 5. You have a chance to take a look at it. And again, you are invited to 2 free sessions on our Saturday live classes. Take a look under the description so you can go ahead and sign up. Again, thank you and a pleasure to have you with us. Shalom. All right.
Let's continue.
And where are we here? All right. My answer is, would men be faithful to their own capacities, there would be no mean capacities to be met with. It is only they who are afraid of hearing what they never heard before, whose capacities are mean indeed. Sounds like, what was that word that you saw, cognitive dissonance?
Yes, cognitive dissonance.
Dissonance. I have found it quite as easy as I am sure it is more just and generous to raise the understanding of my hearers to the level of my own. And if I find them ignorant, at least not to leave them so.
Let's stop right here, Jimmy. In the churches and amongst the Hebrew Israelites, and I'm asking a question to the audience. Are your religious leaders doing everything they can to raise you up to their level of understanding? Are they teaching you skills like we're discussing right now, linguistics, so on and so forth? Or are they just talking to you, telling you things and you have to believe it? Or are they doing what we're doing right now, which is showing you okay, and teaching skills, and approaching this scientifically from a literary point of view, not from a personal belief system point of view, or from the point of view where we're trying to build a church. Zion Law School is not a church, it is a university. Okay, and these courses that we teach, even our presentations, they're done at the graduate level. The graduate level, not undergraduate level learning, graduate level learning. Okay, I just wanted to point that out.
And Dr. Isapa, on that same point, let me go ahead and add. What we just said here is very key. Often in churches, you know, if I can actually answer myself, I remember sitting there, I was being spoken to, and I was to take and believe. Great example of that again would be in a small island like Haiti, that has been conditioned and have two different languages in it. So here we are, you are in a church where the predominant members of the church are your, your marketplace sellers, right? Who does not speak French. So here is this guy standing there with a Bible in his hand, and he's going to read it in French and then give you his own interpretation. He's going to translate it for you in Creole, in the language that the people would understand. And sometimes they'll add those French words in there and make it sound very sophisticated, which give a great example of what this author is saying, because often the people are being spoken to, and they're supposed to just take it, believe it. And even when those pastors, rabbi, preachers, whatever, they tell you, yeah, you got to make sure you go home and study your Bible, but did you teach me how to study it, or you told me what I'm supposed to be looking at? So you precondition me to open the Bible or read that verse and see it exactly the way you just explained it to me. But you didn't teach me those skills to look up those words, to truly understand, like Dr. Isapa said, the science, like the linguistic of what I'm actually looking at.
Let me bring that out a little bit more. Also, in the churches, the first thing they'll tell you, and I hear this among some Hebrew Israelites too, they'll tell you, well, the Holy Spirit will reveal it to you, or you're not ready for it, because for you to understand it, the Holy Spirit has to give it to you. Some explanation like that, okay? Which completely disempowers the person who that is told to, because now that you have no ability to do anything for yourself to understand except for pray and beg for the Holy Spirit to give you the understanding. As opposed to learning about the meaning of pictographs or English letters, learning about culture context or cultural context, historical context, chronology, context, grammar and grammar rules such as nouns, verbs, adjectives, infinitives, so on and so forth, word studies, and so much more. They're not teaching this in the camps and assemblies and churches. They are not teaching linguistics and etymology. They're not. But you can learn these skills for almost free. I mean, where are you going to get something for $10 a month? Go out and try to register or enroll in a Hebrew course at a synagogue or a Jewish or Hebrew school. See how many thousands they're going to charge you just for one semester. So appreciate what we've put out here for you. Don't think because we made it almost free that it has no value. This is the most powerful course that you're going to come in contact with. All right? All right. You'll get this type of stuff. All right? You'll get this type of stuff. But you have to do it for yourself. You have to do it for yourself. I lost my place, Jimmy. Where are we now?
All right. Let me see. I found ignorant. Okay, right here. Down a little bit where it says, "We are all." Okay. But I'll take it back up there just so we get on the same page here. I have found it quite as easy as I am sure it is more just and generous to raise the understandings of my hearers to the level of my own. And if I find them ignorant, I at least not leave them so. We are all of us ignorant before we are learned. And those who are forever for coming down to our level while we are down show but too plainly that it is the aim of their charity to keep us down.
Oh, Jimmy, can you go into this related to what's happening in the church and amongst Hebrew Israelites?
Well, the more we do not understand, the more we remain in the curses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the more we remain in the curses. And if you want to know what I mean by remain in the curses, do join us on Saturday, because that's what we go over in detail, in great length, which are those curses. So keeping us down, keeping us from reaching our true potentials, from zombie flying us. In other words, we become zombies and we just follow in order. And for those of you who did not catch the first 4 parts, you will see, as this author had literally started, this great supper that all you are being conditioned and you're being prepared to go to. Well, it just may be that supper that where you will be the feast. You will be that lamb, I guess you could say, on the table. You will be the mashed potatoes on the table. All right, keeping us again down. Why? Because of the lack of knowledge. And I think it is one of the texts we often quote, is that our people are dying for the lack of knowledge. And you see people in religion goes around reciting this so very often, but never truly really understand what that actually means.
Excellent. Did you have anything else, Jimmy?
No. I just went back to reading it just to make sure.
I just want to make this one point so that it's clear to the scholars in the audience. For a pastor, Moshe, rabbi, whomever, priest, for that person to come down to your level, speak to you at your level, teach you at the level you're at, and never raise you up with the intent of bringing you up to his level, then there's a serious problem, because he wants you to be below him in knowledge so that he can be above you and have control over you. And in religion, that control will always, or not, I shouldn't say always, but often translates into going into your pocket, money, right?
Right.
Or into your son, daughter, or wife. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, what happens in these churches. Okay, and that's true. That is true. All right, so the best situation is to be somewhere where you are learning and being raised up to the level of everybody else, not where you're kept down. And I'm talking about knowledge, right? Because knowledge is power when you have it and you know how to properly use it. Okay, Jimmy, that's the only time it's power. But knowledge is never power if you don't have any, right?
That's right.
Whether you know how to use it or not. Okay, Jimmy, let's continue.
In offering instruction to my fellow men, I would treat them as my fellows, and must therefore plainly tell them that it is not for me to descend, but it is for them to rise. The level between us is to be found, not by humility, but by their ambition. I will not make myself a dunce, but I will make them scholars.
Can you read that again, Jimmy, that last sentence that you just read? Can you read that again, please?
Absolutely. I will not make myself a dunce, but I will make them scholars.
That is the expectation everyone should have when they're associating with any group. And scholars does not mean being able to quote a precept. That's not being learned. Quoting precepts and memorizing precepts, as they call it, That's not an education. That's an indoctrination. Okay, let's continue.
And if I may go ahead and also add, Dr. Isap, and I think that's also the difference between what you were just saying a minute ago here at Zion Law School. And notice that you refer to us, even our listeners, whom you have not met, as scholars. As scholars. If we can, Dr. Isap, can we take a look at the word dunce and scholar? So that is our listeners will have a better understanding exactly what those are.
Okay. Excellent, Jimmy. That's excellent. All right.
Here we are. Dunce. A slow-witted or stupid person.
Okay, now let's go to scholar.
A person who attends a school or studies under a teacher, pupil.
Okay, let's look at scholar over here.
A scholar is a person who pursues academic and intellectual activities, particularly academic, who apply their intellectualism into expertise in an area of study.
Okay, can you bring that out, Jimmy?
What is our area of study? It is basically our core belief, the things that we put our faith, right? We were instructed to believe in something, and we were instructed to have faith in something. But, well, as a scholar, you're going to want to know what is it to believe? Do you want to believe? What is it to have faith? Or do you want to trust? Again, Zion Law School will be able to go ahead and help us identify these different things, so we can, in fact, know what we are dealing with. So when we use those words, those particular words, we are using them, intelligently. We are using them not because we are simply repeating because we heard it and it sounded good, or we thought we have an understanding of it, but because we truly understand the denotative meaning of it and not the connotative, what we were given.
Excellent, excellent. So these dunces are people who, I'm just summarizing, Jimmy, what you're saying. The dunce is the person who repeats what he heard. He doesn't understand why. It sounds good, and he trusts the person, or he likes that person, or he doesn't know anything else but to believe that person, right? As opposed to the scholar who's going to use science. He's going to learn science and then use the scientific facts, evidence, and concepts and other tools in his pursuit of knowledge and is in his pursuit to create something or build something. Okay, all right. A scholar can also be an academic who works as a professor, a teacher. Jimmy, you're here teaching, right? Or a researcher at a university. We do research all day, every day, in every class. Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Zion Law School is a university. All right? So that's what this is about, scholars in the audience. That's what this is about. And who you like, who you think is cool, who's nice, that has no place really in scholarship, in academics.
It is irrelevant.
All right. Okay, so let's continue. Do I need to go back? Well, let me
probably to scroll it down some.
Yeah, I lost my page.
And we have Roderick added here in the chat. He said, sadly, that's what is and has been happening in churches and camps. Good stuff. Thank you, Roderick.
Yeah, thank you. That's excellent. Okay, Jimmy, let's continue.
All right, here we go. I will not make myself a dunce, but I will make them scholars. Be it asked, and if I rob them of their, let's go ahead and bring it up, right? Faith, which the capital God forgave me for being devilishly like to do.
Devilishly likely to do.
Likely to do, okay. What will I give them in its instead? I answer, I will give them learning in its stead. I will set before them the treasures of science and knowledge, to no worse effect than to create in them an appetite for extended information, whose cravings shall never more be satisfied with the baby's lesson, nor content with eternal repetitions of what they knew before, but shall demand continual supplies of what they did not know before. Such supplies as shall increase the store of their intellectual wealth, improve their minds, enlarge their hearts, and free them from the yoke of priestcraft.
That's brainwashing, right? Beliefs, the belief system. Continue. Doctrine, theology. Continue.
As now, sirs, ye shall see the use of so much learning in the learned languages as shall not cost you the expense of a classical education, nor the labor of your whole life to attend.
He's talking about teaching linguistics. Continue.
But as by your few hours of diligent attention to these lectures, even with your pleasure and entertainment, you shall find yourselves to have acquired, till there shall not be an individual of competent faculties that had been fairly applied to these studies, but who shall be a better scholar than any clergyman or preacher of the gospel, if he be dunce enough to believe the gospel himself can possibly be. You want to talk about it from here?
Okay. So let's start. Let me get my cursor together. How about we start here?
Yeah.
Is that, or you want me to start up higher?
Let's go a little bit higher. Did we look up the word science for the audience already?
Okay, well, we can look that up. All right. That's a good idea, actually. That's a very good idea, Jimmy. Let me see, science definition. Okay, Jimmy.
Science, knowledge or a system of knowledge covering general truth or the operation of general laws.
So general laws, these would be natural law, right?
That's right.
That's right, natural laws. Natural laws. Okay, continue.
Especially as obtained and tested through scientific method. B, such knowledge or such a system of knowledge concerned with the physical world and its phenomena. Natural science.
Or natural law.
Or natural law.
Okay.
A department of systematized knowledge as an object of study, the science of theology.
So theology is religion, right?
That's right.
The science of religion. Okay. All right. So how many people knew that theology is a science, that they they made it into a science?
I truly doubt many people knew, because as I had mentioned, I remember in religion, again, the sect that I was involved with, science was looked at to be an adversary. Science was on the opposite side.
Yeah, but it's a control system, so they made it into a science to study how to do it better.
That's right.
All right, so let's see, where are we? Okay. So the author is saying that he's going to educate these men and women. He's going to make them into scholars, right? He's going to set before them the treasures of science and knowledge. Why a treasure? Why a treasure? Well, for example, to build a car, you need to know sciences, right?
That's
Physics, right. Metallurgy. You need to know about fuels, aerodynamics, all kinds of things. That's science.
That's
right.
You
can never build a car on religion. Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, that's right. I'm with you. Cannot build a car on religion.
Or a cell phone or a Wi-Fi connection, right? You need science. Okay. And as we just saw, they create these religions using science to manipulate the mind and to build doctrine, the science of theology. All right. But that's not in the text. I just added that part. Okay, so now let's go down to here. It says here, so I will set before them the treasures of science and knowledge, to no worse effect, to create in them an appetite for extended information. That means an appetite to learn, to discover.
Dr. Isaba, if I can interrupt just a tad bit, it's sad. It is very sad. I think I was sharing that with you. Some people are simply not interested. They just want to hear it, believe it, work according to it, but they are not interested in taking the time that you and I are taking right now, and the viewers who are with us that's taking the time listening to this, like Roderick, commenting, you have Yais one, on the chat commenting, taking that time to really learn. That's a passion. That's a desire. But unfortunately, some of our people simply do not have that desire. They prefer to have somebody just tell them and then they follow.
Yeah, they say that thinking is the most difficult thing a person can ever engage in.
I can only imagine, man.
It's the most difficult thing. And it's easy to sit there and listen to someone. And then also you can always blame them when things go wrong, right? Or they can sit there and do nothing and just be indifferent about life. And, but thinking takes effort, curiosity, and work. So I want to say congratulations to everyone who is watching this video with us and experiencing this with us, because this takes a special kind of person to be able to not only to hear this, but to also participate, be interactive, and enjoy it, because this requires thinking. It truly requires thinking. And not low-level thinking, high-level thinking, and management of your emotions. So I'm appreciative, and I want to congratulate everyone who's watching this video.
Yes, sir. And Dr. Isaba, looks like Yawan posted here. Yeah, I downloaded the PDF too. This is not a game. The followers will only be led off the cliff. The thinkers will despise the lies and rise above them. 100. I'm with you.
That's right. That's right. Excellent. So the goal is to build the appetite to learn science, okay? So that the learner or the scholar becomes a lifelong learner, never satisfied with learning, but always wants to learn more. And we see that here, whose cravings shall never more be satisfied with the baby's lessons. So what are the baby's lessons? Precept that out, right? Etc. Nor content with eternal repetitions of what they knew before. Okay. But shall demand continual supplies of what they did not know before. In other words, some people will say, I don't want to learn anything or discuss anything that's going to upset my foundation or disagree with what I already learned. Okay. As opposed to the person who says, well, you know what? Yeah, I want to learn that. I'm curious about that. Right?
That's right.
Okay. Such supplies as shall increase the store of their intellectual wealth, improve their minds, enlarge their hearts, and free them from the yoke of the priesthood. Now let's look at an image of a yoke. So let's look at the image of a yoke.
So we look at that piece up, and let's make a segue to go to the chat. Looks like we may have a question.
Okay, so this is a yoke. So the priesthood has you yoked through the beliefs. You're yoked. In other words, you're controlled, right? You're controlled by them by means of this yoke. And this is a real deep thing. And it's an excellent illustration because this is what's actually happening. They control what we do and also make us work for them, right? Because everybody's given a 10, or they're given the life insurance, right? Or the house when they expire. So you're working for them, giving them your energy. Okay, and there's the yoke.
You know what's interesting about looking at that yoke takes me back into, again, the sect that I was involved in. Often the laws of the Most High, or specifically the 10 Commandments, were looked at as a yoke. It was a yoke put upon them, and this is why the Christ character came along to remove that yoke of the law, and therefore gave us grace, which, again, it's
Jimmy, can you read please Deuteronomy 28:48, please, Jimmy? Right here.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 48. The Most High will put an iron yoke on your neck, opposing you harshly,
oppressing you
harshly, until he has destroyed you. That's the English Standard Version.
All right. Everybody making the connection, right? Everybody was able to make the connection. The Most High will put a yoke on your neck. The yoke here. Okay. And what? The mental yoke. The psychological yoke that the priesthood has on us. Am I in the right place? Yes. The yoke of the priestcraft. Y'all see it? The yoke of the priestcraft. All right. Now, remember, in the last video, we discussed that our ancestors never returned to the promised land after leaving Babylonian captivity. Why? Because it was a burning waste, just like Sodom and Gomorrah. It was uninhabitable. After Babylonian captivity, well, actually during or shortly after Babylonian captivity, Judaism began. That's a religion. This is a yoke. Rabbis, right? Rabbis, Christianity, their priest,
priestcraft,
Islam. These are psychological yokes, the religious belief yoke around your neck. And it's through what we're learning now, through science, linguistics, philology, all of these things that will remove the yoke from your neck. And nobody can do it but you yourself. Every man, every woman has to remove that yoke themselves. It has to be done yourself. This is religious beliefs. That yoke is religious beliefs. All right. So I hope that's clear, scholars. Yes.
Dr. Saba, do you have access as far as in the chat to remove anyone?
Let me see. What are they doing?
There is an individual just putting stuff on there that's just not correlating. That's
they're evangelizing.
Yeah. But what the questions that we do have, I'm going to go ahead and go back.
Okay.
We have a comment from Roderick. Says, knowing that behavior of people, it's important to have this type of teaching. Absolutely, Roderick. This type of teaching is extremely, it's well overdue, especially for our people. Unfortunately, the question is our people truly ready for this? It is a choice that has to be made at the end of the day.
What's the I'm sorry to interrupt you. What's the name of the person who's doing the
like he's a Wesley Curry too.
Okay.
Okay, doing what they do there. All right, but we do have Silly 15 back with us here tonight. Shalom, Silly 15, and I'll go ahead and read this. How did you tie in theology and science? Theology is belief, and psychology and science, Western science anyway, is theory mixed with some facts.
Okay. So we're working from this definition here. This is the so first let me say I did not tie it in. We are reading the document here, this book, and this is what the author said. All right, and then we looked it up. So go back and well, here it is right here. Can you see my screen, Jimmy?
Yes, Philology. We had looked that up in great details.
Right. So that's how we got to that. All right. So we just looked at it here. If you go ahead and read this and you'll get the answer. Any other question, Jimmy? Is that it? Or
that's all we had, because then we had the disturbance of our friend here, Wesley Curry.
all right. Okay, so let's continue.
You have to make people you trust to be monitors. Absolutely, we'll definitely keep an eye on that. We'll definitely be working on that.
Okay, yeah. Okay, as now, sirs, ye shall see the use of so much learning in the learned languages, as shall not cost you the expense of a classical education. In other words, he's going to teach you linguistics, the sciences, linguistics, right, that relate to analyzing literature. Okay, and it's not going to cost you a ton of money. That's what he's talking about, a classical education, right? Nor the labor of your whole life to attain. So he's saying he's going to teach you not only at a low cost to you, but what else? You're not going to have to go to school for 25 years like I did to learn. All right. Now, remember, the context is the author teaching those who came to the congregation. He taught them linguistics and other sciences to help them or to teach them how to analyze the New Testament or any literature for that matter. And his intent was to raise them up to the level of a scholar like himself, as opposed to keeping them down like they do in churches and various Hebrew Israelite organizations. All right, that's what he's referring to. But as by your few hours of diligent attention to these lectures, so in other words, pay attention to me, let me teach you. All right. Even with your pleasure and entertainment, you shall find yourselves to have acquired, till there shall be no individual of competent faculties. That means a person who has no mental disability, right? That had been fairly applied to these studies, but who shall be a better scholar than any clergyman or preacher of the gospel. So in other words, what he's saying is that I'm going to teach you science, how to analyze literature, and you're going to be more capable, more competent than the clergy or preacher in your local church, assembly, camp, so on and so forth, right? That's what he's saying. Okay. All right. If he be dunce, remember the meaning that we got was a stupid person or slow person. If he be dunce enough to believe the gospel himself can possibly be. So now, sirs, how we advance. Okay, so he's saying we advance through science, right? Linguistics, etc. Historical context, all of those things that we read in the definition of philology. All right, as would not a man who had but the reason and proper spirit of a man put to himself the question, if these so-called sacred writings of the Old and New Testaments were written, as indeed they purport to be, and most certainly were, in ages long betide. So now let's look up long betide. So I think everybody knows where he's going with the question. So let's look up betide and then we'll come back. This is an old word. I've never heard this word.
I've never heard of it either.
All right, so let's see. Did I spell it right? Oh, time. To happen, to befall, to come as, woe betide. Let me make sure I spelled it right. Give me 1 second. Oh, betid, no E. There's a part that I want to get to that I hope we can get to it. Yeah.
And as Dr. Stopper look this up, please, if you have not subscribed already to Zion Law School channel, do subscribe, like, and share the video so we can go ahead and get this message out. It's pretty important that people understand that we need to be learned. In other words, we need to be able to look at the scientific of the writing, whichever version, whichever language of the Bible that you literally have in your hand, or whenever you're looking at any scriptures or any materials that you are a document that you are looking at, to know how to look at it. Because again, denotative, connotative, that's basically how they got us. Often we think the biggest weapon, maybe the atomic bomb or all these craziness that's going on, but the biggest weapon they really have against us is language, our lack of understanding.
Okay, excellent, Jimmy, thank you. So I think this is pronounced betid. It's a verb, simple past tense, and past participle of betide. So here's the definition of betide. Let's see. Okay, so let's look here. Betide.
Betide.
All right. To happen, especially as if by fate. Okay, that's the intransitive verb. The transitive verb is to happen, to befall. Okay, all right, so let's go back to the document. Okay, here we are, in ages long ago, betide, all right? So note what he's gonna say next. In conformity to the notions of men who have long ago ceased to exist, and in languages which have long ceased to be spoken. I'm knocking on the door of that matter about the thousands of years. Oh, what happened? Earlier, remember earlier we talked about the 1,000 years?
That's right. That's right. Redrick had mentioned that for thousands of years. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. So in conformity to the notions of men who have long ago ceased to exist, they've been dead a long time, and in languages which long ceased to be spoken. He's talking about what? Ibriad, right?
And I stand corrected, actually, Sapa. It was Yahweh who mentioned that this is destroying lies that have held us a nation back for thousands of years.
Yes, that. So we're going to approach that now. Okay. So Ibriath was hidden. It was hidden and replaced with the Mishnah, biblical Hebrew. And today people confuse modern Hebrew with the language that our ancestors spoke. Okay. So he's saying that the language ceased to exist, ceased to be spoken a long time ago, right? A long time ago. Now let's continue with what the author is saying. Who but the sheerest idiot and booby? This preacher was from England. I believe he was from England, okay? And booby would dream of the possibility of a translation of them in a modern language. Next, how that a sense of them, according to the sense or nonsense of modern notions, could possibly come even within a guess at the original significancy. That's saying, how are you going to know what they meant? They haven't been around for thousands of years. How can you know what those languages mean? Y'all follow? All right.
I'm with you.
So let's see. Oh, so now let's address that. Let's address that. Now let me show it. Yesterday we showed and discussed that according to Moses, the promised land was a burning waste, right?
That's right, Deuteronomy 29.
Uninhabitable. And then we asked the question, how could our ancestors have gone back to the promised land? Everybody remember these verses? How could our ancestors have gone back if it was a burning waste? So let's go here and review this. So we're at Deuteronomy 29 in the NIV. You can look at this in any Bible version. So let's go back, all right? Deuteronomy 29, verse 20. Jimmy, do you want to read it?
Sure. Verse 22. That's Deuteronomy 29, verse 22. Your children who follow you in later generations and foreigners who come from distant lands will see the calamities that has fallen on the land and the disease with which the Most High has afflicted it. Verse 23, the whole land will be a burning waste of salt and sulfur, nothing planted, nothing sprouting, no vegetation growing on it. It will be like the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Adar and Zimboim, which the Most High overthrew in fierce anger. All the nations will ask, why has the Most High done this to this land? Why this fierce burning anger?
Continue, please.
And the answer will be, it is because this people abandoned the covenant of the Most High, the power of their ancestors, the covenant he made with them when he brought them out of Egypt. They went off and worshiped other deities and bowed down to them. Deities they did not know, deities he had not given them. Therefore, the Most High's anger burned against this land, so that he brought on it all the curses written in this book. In fierce anger and in great wrath, the Most High uprooted them from their land and thrust them into other land as it is now.
Can you give us your commentary, Jimmy? And then we're going to go to Matthew 2. Can we have your commentary, please?
Again, it tells us what happened to the land significantly because of the acceptance of these false deities that he did not give to them. He did not give them, our ancestors, these deities that they pick up from other nations. So his anger burned against them and turned that land, the promised land, into a burning waste. Cannot grow anything as we see it. If you cannot grow, it does not have water, therefore it is inhabitable. You cannot live there. And again, why did he do that? Because of their disobedience. It will be like the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Can nobody said Sodom and Gomorrah exist any longer? It is history of what had happened when the destruction or the wrath of the Most High hit them. So the question for me personally, I guess at this point would be, if this is where the land or what the land, the promised land, has become. And note at the end of the verse, it says Sodom and Gomorrah, right? But at the end of the verse, he says in verse 28, in fierce anger and great wrath, the Most High uprooted them from their land, out of the promised land, and thrust them into other land as it is now. Now, that's a timestamp as well. And actually, throughout this particular chapter, there's a lot of timestamps that you'll note on it. And often these timestamps, again, because of our lack of knowledge or lack of being learned, goes right over our head. But that's my commentary on it. So my question, as I was going to say, Dr. Yusapa, becomes, well, if this is what happened to the promised land, when we take a look at this document that we were covering right now, the character of Jesus Christ, well, from my understanding, this whole thing took place at the promised land in Judea and, in Israel. So if...
Let's show it.
Okay.
Let's show Matthew chapter 2. Go ahead, read, Jimmy, please.
After Jesus was born in Bethlehem and Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have came to worship him."
Okay.
So Judea, and if I'm understanding correctly, at least in the second hint that I was involved, that is in the promised land, right?
That's correct.
So how is that possible? Or at which point did they return?
And we never return, right?
Well, according to what I just read in Deuteronomy chapter 29, there was no returning. Basically, he kicked them out. He kicked us out, our ancestors out, and still to this day, we are out.
That's right. As it is now.
As it is now. And I also recall, I believe it's in the next chapter, chapter 30 of Deuteronomy, where it tells us the condition of returning. Not that there would be a savior to come and save us, but rather by returning to obedience. Yeah, okay, you're pulling that up so we can take a look at that.
So go ahead, please cite book, chapter, verse, please.
Deuteronomy chapter 30, starting with verse 1. When all these blessings and curses I have set before you come on you, and you take them to heart, wherever the Most High, your power, disperses you among the nations, and when you and your children return to the Most High, your power, and obey him with all your heart and with all your soul, according to everything I command you today. Again, timestamp. Then the Most High, your power, will restore your fortunes and have compassion on you and gather you again from all the nations where he scattered you. Even if you have been banished to the most distant land under the heavens, from there, the Most High, your power, will gather you and bring you back.
Back where?
To
the promised land. Continue, Jimmy.
That is very interesting. He will bring you to the land that belongs to your ancestors, and you will take possession of it. He will make you more prosperous and numerous than your ancestors. The Most High, your power, will circumcise your hearts and the heart of your descendants, so that you may love him with all your heart and with all your soul and live.
Okay, now let's go back to Matthew chapter 2. Can you continue, Jimmy? So discuss the requirements for return, and then relate that to Matthew chapter 2, please.
Well, interesting indeed, Roderick, very interesting. As it is, as we just literally read, we know the curses, Deuteronomy chapter 28. We know the situation, Deuteronomy chapter 29, where the Most High tell us why, or told our ancestors why we've been kicked out of the promised land and what the promised land has been turned into. Then we looked at chapter 30, where it gives us the condition of how can we actually return. And we know to return is when we come back, as we look right now on the screen, Deuteronomy chapter 30, when we come back to obedience. Obedience of what? The contract that was given to us in chapter 28. When we return back to obedience with all, not some, but all of our heart and with all of our soul, according to everything I command you today. Not later on, not before, but today, when this was happening. Again, timestamp. And Dr. Isapa, when you have a chance, talk a little bit about timestamp, that our viewers will understand the importance of that.
Okay, all right. So today refers to Moses, the instructions that were given to Moses to give to our people. Timestamp. Not what was told to Adam, Abraham, or any other prophet or king, priest, what have you. The contract is based upon the instructions that were given to Moses only. Moses only. Again, Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 2. And when you and your children return to the Most High, your power, and obey him with all your heart and with all your soul, and here's the answer, according to everything I command you today. So he didn't say according to what I said to Moses, to Adam, or to what I said to Abraham, or King David, or to Isaiah, or to Nehemiah, or to a Christ figure.
Or to Paul.
Or to Paul. Excellent, Jimmy. Or to Paul, right? Then the Most High says, then the Most High, your power, will restore your fortunes. There's no other option. None. Only return to following the instructions that the Most High gave to Moses to give to us, and that our ancestors entered into a contract that also involved us. So now, given that the promised land is a burning waste, just like Sodom and Gomorrah, Bethlehem of Judea is Israel, or the promised land, right? Mm-hmm. The Christ figure is alleged by the New Testament writings, the Gospels, to have been born in the land of Israel, in Judea, which is an impossibility because the promised land was a burning waste. No way around it. Simple logic. So now let's go back to the author's statement.
Now somebody's thinking right now, so you mean we never went back? And that's if they didn't run off from the live and say, I don't want to hear no more. They're still hanging on, thinking, well, if we did not go back, then what does this really mean?
Yes, now let's read the author's statement again.
Dr. Isaba, somebody's thinking, then in that case, so where is this promised land? Again,
the place to start is coming to the Saturday class at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and subscribe to the 101 Ancient Ibriath course, because everything that's being discussed here, the skills and concepts are presented and taught in the 101 Ancient Ibriath course and the Saturday live online class at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's go, let's continue. The author says here, if these so-called sacred writings, the Old and New Testaments, were written as indeed they purport to be, they claim to be written, right? They claim to be sacred writings, okay? Mm-hmm. And most certainly were written in ages long ago. So now, the Christ figure is said to have been born sometime between 2 and 3, some people say 0 BCE, right? Between 2 or 3 and 0 BCE. As a matter, let's show it. So let's take a look at this and to see if the author assertions are correct, and then also to deal with the 1,000 or thousands of years question. So let me type in a different question, yeah. Okay, so according to compellingtruth.org, the Christ figure was born between 6 and 4 BC. Everybody see that? Are you there, Jimmy?
Oh yeah, right there.
Everybody see it?
4 BC. Yes.
Okay. That's actually the oldest I've ever seen.
There is a question, Dr. Isapa, on the chat from
Yes.
Rod. The question would be, at what point in time was the land made desolate? Good question. I know you covered that one before, but
Yeah.
a great question, Roger. Great question.
Okay, excellent. So now this, Wikipedia says Jesus was born in 4 BCE. So we see, right, it was the early BC, between 0 and 4, or 0 and 6 BC is what we saw on here. Okay, so that's when the Christ figure was born. So what year is it now?
According to this time, what, 2022?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Let's see. All right, so how many years have passed since Jesus was born, right? It has to be 2020 plus 6, 2026, right? Because the year right now is 2020. No, today, this is 2022. So 2022 plus 6 would be 2028 years, right? Because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way to 2022, right? 2022 years plus 6 years, which was the date we saw for Jesus' birth, was 6 BCE, 4 to 6 BCE, right?
Right.
So now let's go back to the document.
Dr. Isaba, before you do,
yes.
Roger, make another point here. The problem I see with the Christ figure is the herald story. Harry died and 4 BC. So either Christ was born before then or somebody's lying.
Well, yeah, that's true. But also take note, that's not an issue anymore because the promised land was a burning waste. So nothing that they say can possibly be true because the promised land was a burning waste. It could not support life. There was no water, no vegetation, right, everybody?
Right, right. If
It could not support life. So all stories that allegedly happened in Israel is a lie. So you don't have to deal with any details. What'd you say, Jimmy?
No, I'm following you. I am following you.
So for example, let me give you an example. Jimmy, suppose somebody calls you on the phone and they say, may I speak with Jimmy? And you say, oh, yeah, this is Jimmy. Jimmy, I'm calling from Jet Fuel Incorporated. And we'd like to know when you're gonna pay your $50,000 jet fuel bill that you filled up on yesterday. When are you gonna pay?
What jet bill? I don't even own a jet, man.
Right, and then the conversation's over, right?
That's right.
And anything you say beyond that, let's say you entertain him. Or would you, or would anybody in their right mind even entertain that conversation? No, because I don't own a jet. Right? So any of this discussion in the New Testament is the same. The land was a burning waste, could not support life. Therefore, a Christ figure could not be born there because what did it say about the land?
It's a burning waste.
It's a scorching, burning waste full of sulfur and salt. Nothing growing, nothing planted, no water. But there's much more to it than that. And the land was sick, could not support life. So no second temple, all of these stories, no wars with the Greeks, no book of Maccabees, all of that stuff is fantasy. But that's not the point I wanted to make. This is what I want to get to. So from the time of release from Babylonian captivity, right? What year did Babylonian captivity happen in? Anybody remember? They usually give somewhere in the middle. Let's see.
So we got
687.
we have children of Jerusalem that just came into the chat saying they're definitely lying. These are the facts. And then we have Roderick says, gotcha. That's why the time of desolation is key. And I'm sure Dr. Isaba will answer that question for you, Roderick. Just hang on tight, brother. Then we have children of Jerusalem again says, no historical Christ, all imaginary. Dr. Isaba.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. So what year are they giving us? Maybe we have, okay, so this book says 538, that the so-called Jews left Babylon. Let me read Babylonian captivity Wikipedia. Let's not do Wikipedia because that's not a good.
Yeah, so the sources are not trusted.
Let's do Jewish Encyclopedia. All right. Okay, so according to the Jewish Encyclopedia, Babylonian captivity began in 597. Everybody see that? Thus began the Babylonian exile in 597. Everybody see that? Can you hear me, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm with you, Dr. Yusuf. I'm sorry, I guess I muted out without realizing.
Okay, so in the BC, you have to count backwards. So 597, 596, 590, 594. So 597 years takes you to 0 BCE, right?
Right.
Okay. So 0 to 2020. So basically this is saying 2022. That's the year it is right now. 2022 plus 597 years equals 2,619 years. Everybody see that, right?
I'm with you.
Everybody see. Okay, let's go back to the document. So this is what the author is referring to. Now remember, this book was written in the 1800s, though. All right, so the author is saying, hey, wait a minute. A huge amount of time went by. So how is it that these books can even be translated? Who knows what they mean, right?
Right.
However, since the Christ figure never lived, and we never went back to the promised land after we left Babylonian captivity, then what can we say about this 2,619 years? It never happened. Wipe them off. Why? Because 0 began when the Christ figure was born, allegedly. So if he was never born, do you see the point, Jimmy?
I completely understand. Completely understand.
If he was never born, there was no 2022 years after his birth because he was never born. Y'all get it? Everybody see it? That is to say that the events that happened were very recent. They were very recent, not thousands of years ago, maybe hundreds. All right? And there is science and history that collaborates with that. But the point I want to show everybody right now is that there was no Christ figure. There was no Christ figure born in the promised land, Bethlehem of Judea. Did not happen. Therefore, you can strike out all of these 2022 years. All right? 5,097 or somewhere around there. Let me see. Let me make sure I get this right. When did we leave Babylon?
Kingdom of Judea.
Well, whenever it was that we left Babylon, okay, according to the history, when our people left Babylon, what happened? Well, that's the book of the Maccabees. According to history, our ancestors did what?
I thought they were allowed to return.
Yes.
They were allowed to return back to the land and rebuild the temple and so on and so forth. Which again,
now, wait. Could that have happened?
Could not have happened because according to Deuteronomy chapter 29, it was just impossible. They probably let go, they were released, but there was no land to go back to. Because when you really think about it, they probably left, Babylon, again, observing these false deities that they continue adding, and thus what we actually have today and, have been dealing with.
That's right. So they never returned to the promised land once leaving Babylonian captivity. Therefore, the entire history from the time we left Babylon, allegedly, up until the birth of the Christ is also a lie. The book of Maccabees describes the wars of the Jews battling it out with the Greeks, right? The wars of the Jews and the Greeks battling over the promised land. So those stories are also straight out lies, all of the book of Maccabees. How do we know? Because the promised land was a burning waste according to Moses. Is that clear, scholars in the audience?
Roderick noted here, right. That's why they changed BC to BCE.
Okay, all right, excellent. Excellent. So now we have to wipe out that 500 and plus years because it's a fake history. It never happened.
Wow.
Jimmy, are you following me?
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you. Never
So
happened.
all of these events are very, very recent. And unfortunately, the author did not have the information that I'm presenting right now. That's why he came to these conclusions, right?
All right.
Okay, so now let's continue. But with the simple data of our admissions as the axioms and postulates of this science. One, that men 10,000 years ago, where is he getting 10,000 years ago? He's getting 10,000 years because according to the hybrid Europeans, they count the beginning of civilization as being 10,000 years ago based upon the reigns of the pharaohs, the dynastic reigns of the pharaohs in ancient Egypt, correlated with the lives of Bible characters. They take that back 10,000 years. That's where he's getting this from, okay? So one, that men 10,000 years ago were of the same nature as they are at present. Now, I disagree with him because based upon my knowledge of science, people don't change just because time passes by. The genetic code is locked. It prevents the purpose. One of the functions of the genetic code or DNA is to prevent change. We call it a mutation in science. All mutations are always, always bad. They never help. They always harm. For example, people with blue eyes have poor vision compared to people who have brown eyes. People who don't have melanin, like the hybrid troglodyte niggers, who are classified as white people, because they lack the same melanin distribution that we have, they don't taste food the same way we taste and experience food. It's not as pleasurable for them, okay? It's very different. That's why they cook differently than we do, so on and so forth. So this, according to my knowledge, I disagree with him, okay? Their heads grew up, their shoulders, okay? So now he's trying to be funny here. That's what I think. I suppose, and they had ears, eyes, nose, and mouth in them. So what is this coming from? His belief in the theory of evolution, right? His belief in the theory of evolution. That is, they had the same sources and means of, he's talking about people 10,000 years ago, that they had the same sources and means of acquiring ideas. Okay, now that's, I also disagree with, because evolution is not science, it's not real science, okay? We are not evolving, we are, okay? So we can be developmentally hindered, or our development can be progressed, okay? But we don't change into different species. Case in point, have you ever seen a monkey become a man? Or have you ever seen a monkey become the missing link and then that missing link become a man?
No.
But here's the most important, or two of the most important facts that disprove evolution. One, it violates the second law of thermodynamics. If you don't know what that is, you can Google it, right? Evolution violates the second law of thermodynamics. Therefore, it is automatically false, according to science. The second point is this: when have you ever seen something just spontaneously appear out of nowhere that was complex, that's living? Have you ever seen that? No, it's never happened, right? Never happened. Therefore, observation denies evolution. But what do we see? What do we observe every day? We see living things around us. That's what we observe every day, right?
That's right.
So scientifically, living things always have been. Why? Because that's what we observe and we can confirm it. Y'all follow me? So it is a myth that everything had a beginning. No. Some things always were, but they tricked you in school, teaching you that everything had a beginning, when in fact, that does not agree with anybody's experience. Okay, you cannot get something from nothing. When has that ever happened? In your lifetime, when have you ever saw something appear from nothing that is living? It never happens, okay?
Abstract.
So there was always something, there was always life when that life was created. All right, so let's continue. But this is you can only come to these conclusions and see these things once you begin to think for yourself and think critically and use science, okay? Once you have to get out of the belief system.
Condition.
Conditioning, yes. Okay, so 2, they, that meaning men from 10,000 years ago, had but the same and no other means and ways of communicating the ideas they had acquired. Okay, well, that's not true either, right? Because we've always had writing and different forms of communicating. But these are ideas that he's developing off of evolution, the theory of evolution. 3, the same things made the same impressions. Well, I disagree with that also, because our brain is still the same brain, right? It's going to function the same. 4, and the same impressions produce the same reflections, right? So I again disagree, because we have the same brain and it functions the same, okay? There is no evolution. The only people who evolved, let me show you, was the hybrid troglodyte nigger, classified as white people, misclassified as white people. So let's look at paleo, and then we get back to the topic. Paleolithic man. This is the caveman, right? This is the Neanderthal that our ancestors, this is a long story, y'all. Come to Saturday's class and I'll explain this to you. This is the Neanderthal. These are the ancestors of those people who are classified as white people today. All right, caveman, Paleolithic man, hybrid troglodyte nigger. Okay, hybrid troglodyte nigger, Paleolithic caveman. They evolved. And how did they evolve? Because our ancestors created them. That might sound crazy to a lot of y'all, but that's the fact. Our ancestors created them using the science of genetics or genetic engineering. All right, that's where they come from.
Again,
okay, so now let's go back to our document.
Come to the Saturday class for more details on that, because this particular live here is to go through this particular document. Dr. Isapa, you definitely went beyond.
Yeah, sorry about that. Let's stay on topic. I'm gonna stay on topic, y'all. Okay, Jimmy, do you want to take it from here?
All right. We arrive at conclusions. Then, which the corollaries of a mathematical problem are not more consequential and demand strative. Of these corollaries, one of the first
So
is,
let's look that up. Let's look that up, Jimmy. Okay.
Corollaries, a proposition that follows with little or no proof required from one already proving. So a proposition that follows with little or no proof required from one already proven. A natural consequence or effect, a result.
Okay.
That's a result.
Let me pull it back up. Oops. Anything happening in the chat, Jimmy?
No, chat is pretty quiet right now. I mean, like I said, you went deep for a minute there, man. All right, here we are. Of these corollaries, one of the first is that as all ideas of mankind must necessarily have been received into the mind in the same way, so there must be a wonderful sameness. Okay. There must be a wonderful sameness of similarity in the modes, figures, signs, and forms of expressing those ideas. And as wonderful a sameness of association of idea, the one calling up the other by a similar action of a similar constituted brain in all ages and among all nations of mankind. Hence arises the large and very extensive class of words called
radicals.
Okay. That is words which are the roots and bases of innumerable varieties of language.
Verbal roots, right? And base words, Jimmy.
That's right.
All right, continue.
Okay. Of innumerable varieties of language, but which
varieties of language.
But which, when analyzed, are found to be essentially the same.
So let me explain what this is saying. There are many different languages, right? But these languages are related. And then how do you know that they're related? Because they share the same root words, the same base words or verbal roots, okay? The same bases. You'll learn about these in our Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time class, live online class. You'll learn this type of information with regard to Ibriad, okay? So the author is telling that these languages are similar. So they're related to each other. Okay, so let's continue.
Of the earth. And these you have the advantage of learning as you learn the general chords and principles of music.
So in other words, learning language, the linguistics, the grammar is just like learning the principles of making music. It's a science. That's what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
By your own ear, by hearing me repeat to you, as is my custom, all the different languages through which the text on which I treat has been derived.
So when you enroll, when you subscribe to the 101 Ibriath class, you're going to hear me teach these principles in the same way that he's talking about when he teaches people when he gives a sermon. That's he being the author, okay? You'll hear me teaching in the 101 Ancient Ibriath course and in the live online Saturday 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time course. You'll hear me teaching over and over and over and over again these linguistic principles and concepts. And you'll also hear your co-scholars like Jimmy presenting and doing the same. And eventually you're going to learn and you'll be doing what Jimmy is doing. Okay, continue, Jimmy.
All right. And let me see where we're here. These radicals are always monosyllables.
Monosyllables. So
Monosyllables.
that's like is, thus. In other words, like two letters, Jimmy, remember from, but let's not discuss it here. If you want to know more about this, go and make sure you get the 101 Ancient Ibriath course, and you'll get this information. Continue.
All right. And these radicals are always monosyllables. They never require more than 3 letters, words, and may often be expressed by 2 or only 1. Hence, the earliest or most ancient languages of man are all monosyllabic. Yeah, and all the combinations found with them are merely grammatical and artificial variation of the sound, but not of the sense.
In other words, they can be spelled differently, right? Okay, that's where the variation of sound is going to come in. But the sense, meaning the nuance, the meaning, it's going to still be related. We know the principles that are involved here, right, Jimmy?
Right, that's right.
All right. So we go through this stuff extensively in the 101 Ancient Ibriath course and on the Saturday Live Online course. So come and learn with us. Okay, Jimmy, come on. Let's read, please.
All right. And okay, but not of the sense, and have been introduced in much later times, sometimes poetically and tastefully, but oftener to hide and conceal the original source whence they were derived.
Excellent. So this is what we were talking about, right? You'll be able to evaluate the quality of a rendering of a word in the text, and you'll be able to say, well, this is poor, this is an excellent rendering, or this looks like outright deception, this looks like outright deceit. Okay.
Or the Jeremiah 8:8.
Jeremiah 8:8, right. So I hope all the scholars in the audience, I hope that you all are starting to see what we're talking about when we talk about science and the need to understand linguistics, so on and so forth. So let's look at, Jimmy, can you take us through the Amplified Bible? Just a quick read and a short comment on it.
No, not a problem. And, Roderick let us know that he is currently at work, but he's still listening to us. All right. Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8, the Amplified Bible. How can you say we are wise? And the law of the Most High is with us, and we are learned in its language and teachings. Behold, the truth is that the lying pen of the scribes has made the law into a lie, a mere code of ceremonial observances. Again, this is exactly what Dr. Isapa is going over right now, is we must be learned in the language. We must be learned in the language in order for us to say we do understand what is the natural law. To be able to say we are learned in what the natural law is, to truly understand it. In order to apply something is to truly understand. And if you do not truly understand, you cannot apply what you don't understand. But we see we are dealing with false deities given to us and ceremonial observances that is leading us instead of teaching us. And that's the biggest takeaway as far as I'm concerned here tonight. That's the biggest takeaway. Instead of teaching us how to look at the document, how to understand the document, we are being conditioned and led astray. We're not being learned. We are being conditioned. Dr. Isapa?
Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. So we see that Jeremiah is telling us we need to understand Ibriah in order to understand the teachings. Why? Because our ancestors, the scribes, the dark priesthood, the black priesthood, used linguistics, used science to change the documents and to indoctrinate us and capture our minds and to enslave us with a religious belief system yoke around our neck. And we are now working for them, providing for them, while they live off of us, right? They live lavishly, okay? And it's because of our ignorance. Okay, so let's continue. All right. Okay, so these dark priesthood members, the clergy, the rabbis, the moshes, the reverends, the pastors, they, maybe not all, but many hide, intentionally hide, and conceal the original meaning of words. Because if you knew the original meanings of the words, in other words, if you knew the etymology that which Jimmy has referred to several times, speaking about connotative and denotative uses of words. Yesterday, we talked about the connotative use of curses, which is a very poor translation, right? So these connotative meanings trick you and capture you into a belief system, which will cause you to be what? To be exploited by the priesthood. Okay, finally, we're getting to where I wanted to get to. Okay, so unless you have something else, Jimmy, I'll start reading.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Of which last sort of words, you cannot have a more striking specimen than that of the first noun in our text, the name Jesus, of which the last syllable, scholars follow along, okay? Of which the last syllable, us. Now let's confirm it. We see US, right? So let's go to Jesus. Everybody see the US there?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody see that? That's the last syllable. Of which the last syllable, us, is no part of the word itself, but the Latin termination added to the only real complete word, which is what? JES. Does everybody understand the importance of what we just looked at? Thus, Jesus Christus is good Latin. Jesus Christus is good Latin, but Jesus Christ is neither good Latin nor good English, nor, scholars, please pay attention because this is very important, nor good sense. Now remember, y'all, we've been talking about language, linguistics, right? We've been talking about linguistics, philology, science. Let's continue. 4, in taking away the Latin termination from Christus, so that was the US, right? Mm-hmm. To render it in English, Christ. Everybody see that? You see it, Jimmy?
Yeah, I see it.
Uh-oh.
You lost the picture.
I don't know if I went up or down. I have no idea how that happened, but it did. All right, so let's continue. So for taking away the Latin termination, I'm back here at the top. In taking away the Latin termination from Christus, here's the Latin termination, US, right? To render it into English as Christ. So there's no US, right? There's no Latin termination. Notice what it says. We should take away the Latin termination from Jesus, right? That makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? We should take away the Latin termination US from Jesus, which leaves JES, and render it into JES. Everybody see that?
I'm with you.
So they took off the Latin termination US and made it Christ, but they didn't do it for Jesus. Now, why? Okay, so let's continue. The Greek word for Jesus being here, the Greek word here, which is precisely the same adoption of the Latin termination into Greek, as our Jesus is in adoption of it into English, is one among 10,000 proofs that betray the monkish Latin origin of the New Testament. What do you mean? What does the author mean?
What do you mean?
That is to say that Latin and not the Greek was the first language in which the contents of the sacred diegesis of Egypt was brought to the knowledge of the priests of Europe.
So are you saying the original story was written in Latin and not in Greek?
Well, let's let the author continue to speak.
Okay.
Okay. The translation was made from the Latin into the Greek. The translation was made from the Latin into the Greek. And the Greek original pretended. And a Greek original pretended, not till after it was found expedient to oppose a check to the advance of curiosity and to throw a thick veil over the mysteries of the gospel craft. Had the Greek been the original, the Greek for Jesus must have had the Greek termination here. Looks like US or OS, okay? Your Greek termination would be OS. And been this Greek word here. I hope everybody is seeing what they did. But the Greek word here is used, and this Greek word is bad Greek, and nothing more than the Latin Jesus exhibited in Greek characters. The written documents of the diegesis, from which first the Latin and subsequently the so-called, let me read that again, and subsequently the so falsely called original Greek was derived, have necessarily perished, but Christian ignorance in mistaking its fable for history and committing itself to criticism by fixing an era, that's an era of time that Christ was born in 0 to 6 BCE. And the scene, he was born in Nazareth or Bethlehem of Judea. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
So, oh, wait a minute, hold on, let me get that out of there. Okay, let me say that again. So the Christians in their ignorance, what ignorance? They made a mistake, right?
Mm-hmm.
In mistaking its fable for history and committing itself to criticism by fixing an error. In other words, the Christ was born on that date, and the scene, the city he was born in, Bethlehem of Judea, and when and where its imagined events occurred. Notice the conclusions. He supplied, or Christianity has supplied the means. Christianity has supplied the means of demonstrating the utter falsehood of its pretenses. Isn't that what I just showed?
Yes, when we looked at Deuteronomy 29, as far as the scene, And when we look at the history when it's supposed to happen as far as the era, yes, that's exactly what you showed.
It's exactly what we show. All that history, fake, false, all false. But let's go back up to here and answer to your, Jimmy, what's the answer to your question?
Wow. Wow.
The short answer is the author is saying that there are 10,000 examples where that prove that the New Testament was first written in Latin.
Latin.
And you can tell by the Latin terminations that are on the end of the words, like Christus, US, Jesus, US, and then they simply wrote, the translators simply wrote in Greek, but they kept the Latin termination, US. That exposed them because the Greek termination should have been OS. And then they hid it. Why did they hide it? To confuse people, to make it more mysterious. Everybody see it?
Of course.
Do I need to read it again or?
No, hey, listen, I get it. I get it. Wow.
Right. So the document was actually written in Latin.
Latin. I mean, as if, it wasn't already proven that the document was false, but now this is basically, the cake has already been baked. This is just icing on the cake.
Yes, yes. And how did they do it? They used linguistics, but they made some mistakes. So if you know the science of linguistics, you can see all of this stuff.
That's the importance of etymology. That's the importance of being learned.
That's right. And grammar rules. So let me just go back. And so the 101 Ancient Ibriath course, you will learn grammar rules. And we just saw how the priesthood used grammar rules. Remember the Latin termination US and the Greek termination US. Jimmy, we saw plenty of these examples on our Saturday live class, right? Where the translators changed grammar rules. They created new grammar rules.
Give us new words, comes new
to create new words and completely change the meaning of text. So y'all have to get this class. You have to subscribe to this course, okay? You owe it to yourself. All right. So here we are. So everybody's clear on that? If so, we're going to move forward.
Wow.
All right. So let's continue. I think we're here. Inasmuch as we are able to adduce positive evidence of the existence and prevalence of precisely the same story. What story? The Christ story in India, Persia, Egypt, and Greece for more than 1,500 years before the date assigned to the pretended occurrence of it in Palestine. That's the Christ, has to do with the Christ figure being born. Okay, Palestine is where they say Israel is. Okay, so let's continue. Let
me go ahead and have your voice rest for a couple of seconds. I'll go into the chat, man.
Okay.
This is really good. I think you've actually really exposed, even before the author went this far or went this deep in, you've actually already exposed what we really needed to know through these specific texts you provided in Deuteronomy. We have Roderick in the chat. He mentioned pastors can't teach it because they were led astray in exchange for position and power. Completely agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You also mentioned the term Jesus Christ. I guess we spoke about that yesterday, meant earth pig, or the way that it is written in Greek. I think we saw that a minute ago up there. When you translate that particular word, it means earth pig, which does not match with what they claim to be salvation. And that within itself is a humongous red flag. But we choose, or no longer we, for those of us who are listening and understanding and reconditioning or deconditioning ourselves, we now know And Child of Jerusalem said, this is so good. Again, it only get better. Do subscribe to the Hebrew 101. Again, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself. The Hebrew 101 will lay the groundwork for you to really understand a lot of the things that Dr. Yusapa is talking about. Dr. Yusapa, can you put that Hebrew 101 up for us for a minute? That Hebrew 101 course, again, I like to call it the foundation. It really helps you because it goes into the grammar. It goes into the grammar of the Ibriath language, which we have established is the original spoken language of our ancestors. That language is what it was originally written in when you talk about the document. So understanding, the pictograms, understanding the culture, understanding the grammar is extremely important when we are doing the word studies to really understand what is being said. And that's how we come across these Jeremiah 8:8 occurrences. And that's the whole point. As we become scholars, we are developing into scholars as we understand the purpose of that. Today, we are dealing, in a paradigm where we are supposed to follow these preachers. We're supposed to follow these guys where we give them a tenth, and these guys are flying, they own their own helicopters, their own jets, and mentions that we're supposed to follow with no intent on their side to bring us up to their level, but rather to dumb us down and keep us down there so they can continue to dominate and create wealth for their children, right? And while you turn around and pass that same slavery mentality to your children. But here you have the opportunity to learn for yourself. So when you get with the individual maybe that used to be your teacher, not in a form of disrespect, but in a form of elevation, to then say, hey, maybe you misunderstood this. Let's take a look at this the way it should be looked at. It is very sad when you have individuals that simply are not interested in things such as etymology. They are not interested in things such as we are talking about right now, that we are digging up right now, that we are exposing right now. They're not interested. Why? Because they are comfortable where they are. They are comfortable where they are. So therefore, you believe something that you know nothing about. But today, I think one of the biggest takeaways is to truly be learned. Because unless you are learned, then what is it that you truly believe in? Makes a significant difference. Significant difference. Trevor said, this is good. This is so good. Roderick mentioned, wow, yeah. A lot of what was exposed here was awakening. Very wow. And again, it only get better. And Roderick, we again certainly invite you and everyone else on this chat follower through to come in to our course class on Saturday morning. You get 2 free classes and to actually enjoy the full experience. But even before you come to class, make sure you go ahead and you subscribe to the Hebrew self-study course. This right there is that foundation map. You need this. You need this. It is extremely important. It will change your outlook. You can do it at your own time, and it's practically free. Check it out. $1 for a day, 24 hours. Check as many of the over 150 videos that are already there where Dr. Yusapa is going through this information, which is showing you the pictograms, showing you the culture, showing you the grammar rules and the word studies and the vocabularies. It is priceless. Now, once you see that value, $10 per month, $10 per month. You yourself will have to admit it worth well over that. And perhaps you who have experience in these camps and these other, groups that offer you these courses, that offer you to teach you Hebrew, and perhaps it's what? Modern Hebrew. You will see the value in this and realize, man, this is actually free. This is free. And the problem is with our people sometimes is that when something is free, they're just not interested, right? But when you tax them, then they realize, oh, it's important. So therefore, importance comes with the value you're going to pay for it. when this right here is simply priceless. You don't find it in the church. You don't find it in the camp. To go ahead and lay that foundation, what our people need to know in order to return to obedience of the Most High. You are not being dumbed down. You're not being put in a position to go ahead and continue to follow Dr. Yesapa. No, you are being taught to become scholars, that you too can go ahead and awaken our brothers and our sisters into the truth and to following obedience of the Most High as sovereignties, true powers, according to Psalms. Is it 82 or 86, Dr. Yesapa?
82:6.
82:6. That you are true powers, identifying with who you truly are and coming out of this programmed system that they have stuck in. We have Children of Jerusalem says our enemies going down. Well, the only way that can happen is when enough of us wake up to the truth. Then just like it says in Deuteronomy chapter 30, then and only then will the Most High return us back to the promise he made to our ancestors. We saw it here today. And if you came onto this a little bit late, you didn't catch that part, strongly advise you go back, watch this video from the beginning. We showed it. Roderick says, I got the book a year ago. We'll sign up. All right, Roderick, we are looking forward. Not only sign up for the Hebrew 101, but check out the courses class we do have going on Saturdays. Information on the description down there. Make sure you register. Then again, you'll be able to assist two free classes, and then you can make some decisions from there. Children of Jerusalem says, all they can do is threaten that we going to hell for denouncing that idol and false testament book, but we fear no imaginary deities. I am going to continue to share these videos and this truth. And we thank you very much for that, Children of Israel. Definitely share, subscribe, like, let people make that decision. We share it, we get the word out there. All right. But you're right. We are not going to be afraid of any imaginary deities. And what you said is correctly. That's what they're going to say. And some people jump onto this and they hear this and they start listening. And once they realize what's being said, the fear take over them. And that fear is something that they were conditioned with, that has priority over them, priority over their home, their families. And that's the same fear that they're going to pass on to their children, that same false deities, making it very difficult, extending our return to the Most High. And last but not least, Roddick says, Kemp's modified version of the church. I like that. You're absolutely right. You run to the church and you just find it's a paradise of lies. So you get out of the church, you run to the camp. All they're doing is confusing the lies because you're still being served with these false deities. So the lies only get confused. It's time to get out of it. It's time to get out of it, to go back to the contract. Let's think about it. Every single thing that you deal with in your life, I don't care what shape or form, it is a form of contract. It's something for something. It is a form of contract. And we are dealt with in a concrete sense. The host, our bodies, we are dealt with in a concrete sense. We must understand that to know who we truly are and execute the powers that we truly are. Dr. Yesapa, if I continue talking, I may give too much away. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's continue with the, thanks for all the comments, Jimmy. Thank you for all of that you just provided. I appreciate that. And it's also really, really good for the people who are going to watch the video in the future, because all of those comments, they're going to resonate with people. The things that you guys are saying in the comment section resonates with people, and somebody's going to read what you said, and it's going to have a very, very positive effect on them and help them in their life their job, with their woman, their something. It's going to help people. So we appreciate all of the comments because it's going to do so much good for people who watch this video in the future. Okay. So thank you everyone for helping to make this very, very rich, very rich.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, oh, go ahead, Jimmy. Excuse me.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now let's continue. Let's backtrack a little bit. So the author, we just read on the previous page, the author, his argumentation about the New Testament and the Old Testament, how they're very old, and all of those things that he said as to why they cannot be real. And we made some statements regarding that to show that they're not old like he said. So now let's pick up right here. But taking the words of the Greek text, the highest written authority to which we can familiarly appeal, right? So he's talking about the Greek text, the New Testament, okay? Take it in their most simple and primitive significancy. That means the importance or significance of it, and suffering no stubborn or forestalled sense to pervert us from the sense which those words really naturally convey. In other words, take a look at it unbiasedly, right? That's what he's saying. Okay, now he's giving his opinion, of course. His opinion is, we shall find it far, infinitely far, from any historical or even pretended historical sense, as our fraudulent English translation and still more fraudulent preachers of the gospel would palm on our insulted reason. Everybody got that, right? He is revealing that the Greek text of the New Testament, the very oldest versions of it, are fraudulent. What? The English text is fraudulent because it hides what's written in the Greek. Clear?
Clear.
All right. So, page 22. Jimmy, you want to read or you want me to read?
For the sake of time, Dr. Silva, if you go ahead and read as you go over it, we'll probably get a little bit further into the document.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, now when Jesus, let's see, so here we are. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, that's a quote, that's Matthew 2, right?
Yes, that is Matthew chapter 2.
Now, if this were an accurate rendering of the Greek, which it is not, and if the common sense meaning of our English words were allowed to be its meaning, who could for one moment pretend that this was the style of writing of anyone who could have been contemporary of the events he was about to relate, who had ever lived with, seen, or conversed with the person of whom he speaks? How fatal, therefore, it is to any pretense that anything more than a romance was intended. He's basically, what he's saying is that you wasn't there, I wasn't there. So how do you know what it means, right? That's what he's saying. But look at the literality of the text. Okay, so again, he's applying what? Linguistics to the Greek text.
You know, I tell you, I'll never look at the word science the same again.
So let's continue. But look at the literality of the text. And then he's citing the Greek text here. Okay. The Jes, Jes, or yes, yes, those are all references to Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. Without the Latin termination us. the just or yes, being in the house of corn, this is quoting a scripture, being in the house of corn of the, there's a Greek word here, in the days of Herod the king. So this is what he's saying the text actually means, y'all, okay? The just or yes, being in the house of corn of the, and here's a Greek word, in the days of Herod the king. That's his assertion. Now let's continue reading. Thus have we the literal translation of the mongrel Greek, Hebrew, and Phoenician roots. Okay, all right, these are roots. This is a linguistics term. Okay, of this egregiously construed, that's mistranslated, misrendered sentence, of which the sense is, oh my goodness, what does that say, Jimmy?
S-U-N. That's capital S-U-N.
The sun. Okay, the sun, that is the yes, Y-E-S, being in the zodiac, in the zodiacal sign of the Virgin, who is distinguished by the spike of corn in her hand. So the Virgin, what's the name of the Virgin zodiac sign? It has corn in her hand. That's what he's saying, right? And is the genius.
The Virgo?
I'll have to check it, okay? We'll check it. And is the genius of the month of August, which is the harvest month. Y'all see the Astro-theology clearly, right? Okay. Which is further distinguished by the definition of the Greek phrase here highlighted, the house of corn or bread of the, and then there's this Greek phrase that is most literally of the zodiac, and still further by the addition in the days of Herod the king, which are translated from these Hebrew words, okay? In the days of Herod the king, okay, the Greek text there, that is not in the days as signifying the reign of any king on earth called Herod, but in or according to, let me scroll up so I can see. Okay, but in or according to the ephemeris or almanac of Hercules, the sun. Everybody sees the Astro-theology, right? That name Herod being compounded of the Greek, these two Greek words here. So a compound is when you combine two words to make one. That name Herod being compounded of these two Greek words, that is the hero of the skin. That is the hero of the skin. The well-known epithet of Hercules. The well-known epithet of Hercules, derived from his always being described, sculptured, painted, and distinguished as wearing the skin of the Cleonian lion. For whatever real personages in real history might have assumed the mythological astronomical name of Herod, it is certain that no King Herod or Herod the Tetrarch as a person that ever existed upon the earth was intended by the Greek words here highlighted, or King Herod of the gospel, but as the literality of the name betrays, the hero of the skin, King Hercules, that is the sun, who in his annual progress through the signs of the zodiac before he can reach the Lion of July, and so invest himself with the skin of the lion as to become the hero of the skin. Okay, so we'll finish this up. That is, the Herod indeed is obliged to kill all the children that were in Judea. That is, or that means, that is in Bethlehem and the coast thereof, which is a most accurate definition of the zodiac. And then it gives us this Greek sentence here. Okay, it gives us this Greek sentence here. Let's see. So I'll just read this last paragraph. Okay, in Bethlehem of Judea, and in all divisions of it, in which you will see that there are two children, and here are the two children in Greek, of 2 years old, Gemini. That's the zodiac, right? Gemini, the twins of May, which this solar Herod is said to kill in our English rendering. Y'all see why they're saying the English rendering is fraudulent, right? But in the literal Greek, this Greek word here means to take or put away or pass through, as the sun passes through the sign of the twins. Okay, so here's the quotation. Okay, so now let's go down and read the asterisk. The asterisk reads, he took away the boys, i.e. the boys of the sun, Pleiades, whose the Greeks formed their words, and here's the Greek word highlighted here. Boys was a common title of the sun. A common title of the sun, and meant particularly the sun in Gemini. Hope everybody sees that. Let's go back to the sentence. And that there were but two of them, that's two boys, right? Two children, 2 years old each, right? And that there were but two of them is discovered by the reference made to the astronomical scheme of the prophet, that is to say, of the old astronomer Jeremy. So it would have been Jeremiah. And I'll stop here after I read just this one sentence, okay? In Rama rather, was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping, and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children. Why Rama? What is Rama? Why Rama is the Hindustani, Coptic, Syriac, Phoenician word and literal name for the zodiac. We will pick this up tomorrow, scholars.
Wow.
What, Jimmy? What are you thinking?
Let's take a look at that zodiac board briefly, Dr. Sapa, and verify that that virgin is in fact the I think it's the Virgo, which is for between the end of August and beginning of September, the fall season.
Okay, so virgin zodiac, corn. Okay. The corn carrying lady of harvest is Virgo. You're right, Jimmy. You are right. That's the corn carrying virgin of August. You see how they craftily hid that?
Yeah. Virgin Mary. Wow.
And here are images.
So, it is amazing as we read through this and looking at the stories and seeing the correlation to the zodiac. So far to me, I know we just in part two, but to me, I think the author is making his point, identifying the story of the New Testament, the story of the character Jesus Christ to the zodiac, and so far it is fitting. And again, that's in my opinion, based on what I'm reading here. As far as the stories themselves, it was already confirmed to me through the contract. And we talk about Deuteronomy chapter 28, Deuteronomy chapter 29, Deuteronomy chapter 30, kind of made it clear and confirmed it to me. But I like the fact that I am seeing the correlation with what this author is saying, with identifying these stories and placing them directly, specifically into the zodiac, the 12 zodiac signs. That's wow.
Yes, and it's being done through science, the science of linguistics, right? The science of linguistics. So this is probably going to cause a lot of people a lot of cognitive dissonance.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have Yeshe Yesharella in the chat. And the individual said Christianity told their people to stay away from zodiac signs. Wonder why? You're absolutely right. We spoke about that earlier. The sect that I came from also wanted us to stay far away from that. You stay away from those people reading zodiac and reading. You need to understand that. Once you understand that and you start to identify these lies, it helps you, especially those of you who this is brand new to you, and you find yourself intrigued and you soak in this in, yes, you're going to deal with, what's that word again, Dr. Isapa?
Cognitive dissonance.
Can we look that up for them, Dr. Isapa, so they understand when we say cognitive dissonance, so they understand, and when they have these feelings that they're going to go through, that they understand, hey, it's expected because you have been preconditioned. You have already had your belief set. You have been convicted. Those are key words, right? You were convicted to what you believe in, right? And then now here's all of a sudden it's being shook, it's being broken down to the core to tell you, hey, you've been lied to. Nobody want to be lied to. Nobody like that feeling of being lied to, right? Because you believe what you had chose to believe is the truth. You were convinced it's the truth. In fact, you convinced yourself so much so that everything around it, you started to fit in exactly accordingly. So therefore, hey, it is the truth. But just ask yourself about the couple of times you truly believed it and then it didn't happen. But then you had to convince yourself, well, it's because you didn't do something, or it's because this, or it's because that, right? And then ask yourself, how about the times that certain things were very doubtful to you? You wasn't sure, it didn't really make much sense, but you chose to believe it. Well, when you were learned in the language, science of the language, linguistic, right? It makes a significant difference because now you truly know. Let's not forget, here in this realm, we are dealing with our senses concretely. So it's extremely important that we understand that. Dr. Isapa.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. All right. So this is cognitive dissonance, the theory of cognitive dissonance. So let's go through it. The theory of cognitive dissonance proposes that people are averse to inconsistencies within their own minds. It offers one explanation for why people sometimes make an effort to adjust their thinking when their own thoughts, words, or behavior seem to clash with each other. The next paragraph is what we're interested in. When one learns new information that challenges a deeply held belief, religious doctrine, theology, for example, or acts in a way that seems to undercut a favorable self-image or undercut what? Some belief system, right? Or value. That the person may be, I'm sorry, let me read that again. That person may feel motivated to somehow resolve the negative feelings that results, to restore cognitive consonance. Though a person may not always resolve cognitive dissonance, the response to it may range from ignoring the source of it to challenging one's beliefs or behavior to eliminate the conflict. So now let's continue, okay? So what is cognitive dissonance? Oh, go ahead.
That line you just read there kind of explain why, if you notice, some people will listen to this, and then once they hear that you are looking into the Christ figure, they will run. That's what Dr. Issappa just read. They'll rather leave it alone. They're choosing not to even entertain to hear it. Why? Dr. Issappa.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. I'm trying to look at the way, I'm looking for something. I've never looked at this website before, y'all. So give me 1 second. I'm looking for the description of cognitive dissonance that I want you all to see, which explains the behavior that people, the feelings and behavior that people experience and do when they come across information like this that conflicts with their deeply held beliefs and values. They get angry, argumentative. Some will even fight, okay? And they run. Okay, so let's see if this is, let's go to another article, so something that where we can actually see that. Give me 1 second. What is this? Give me 1 second, y'all. And then after this, we're gonna wrap it up. Let me move this thing so I can see my screen.
As you look that up, Dr. Issappa, I found here, there are signs that you may be experiencing cognitive dissonance. And there are a couple of signs here. One of them is general discomfortable that has no obvious or clear source. Another sign is confusion. Another sign is feeling conflicted over a disputed subject matter.
Continue.
A feeling of a hypocrite. People saying you are being a hypocrite, right? Because for so long you've been in this walk, and then now all of a sudden now you're going against it. No, you're waking up. You're growing. You're getting wiser. You're progressing. Being aware of conflicting views and or desires, but not know what to do with them. So some of you may feel like, man, this is, I know I've been feeling a little bit uneasy. Certain things that make sense to me. So what now? What now? It will question your very core. My personal advice, and this is Jimmy's personal advice, is understand it's all about getting back to the source, your source. You got to hold on to that. You got to hold on to that. It could be confusing, sleepless nights. I mean, cognitive dissonance is a serious, you could say, disease. It's not easy, especially for those of us really seeking and demand and need to know the truth, and will not settle for anything unless it is the truth.
Jimmy, is this the article that you were reading from?
Yes, that's it right there.
Okay, that's it. Okay, so I'll let it sit on the screen for a minute so people can see it. So you guys can pause the video and read through these that Jimmy just presented. I'm going to, I wanted to show the response. Maybe this will happen.
All right.
What is that?
As you look through this, Dr. Issappa, I'll share a story with the audience.
Okay.
You know, often, especially in the Protestants, and many of you probably experienced that even throughout the camps, I'm sure. What happened is you get a group that's together, and then all of a sudden, It breaks up. And then this individual take a group with him. Now that group that got big, maybe it started off with 10 people, grew to 150 people. Now it's split into two. Now that's 75 grows a little bit more to 150, 200, then it's split into two. Why? Why? Because of the need to have that leader. But if everyone is on the same page, as far as understanding and becoming scholars, which is what Dr. Issapa is offering through the courses that Zion Law School offers, and through these presentations, is that we all elevate and the truth to the one. For here, O Yisrael, the Most High, your power is one. So I mean, we are one once we understand who we truly are. And coming out of that system, of that conditioning, out from under the curses, because that's what it is, it's the curses. And tonight, Dr. Issapa clearly showed us the only way out is to become learned. So even going through this disease of, cognitive dissonance, we have to rise. Be thankful. Even with the confusion, certain things you're not clear out, but now you have a path. You have a base, you have a foundation through the Hebrew 101. And then ongoing studies, like looking at such documents, will help us as a people return to the Most High.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. So let's look at this meaning here of cognitive dissonance, okay? I don't see the webs. Hold on, I got so much stuff on my screen. Oh, this is from tamingyouranger.com. This is not the best source, but anyway, let's see what it says here. Cognitive dissonance. I define cognitive dissonance as the stress we experience when our actions, such as learning this type of information, are out of alignment with our beliefs, that would be religious beliefs, right? Attitudes, principles, or morality. The camp says, don't do this. Your minister said, don't do that, right? The Moshe said, don't do that. Don't look into this topic, right? It's bad, or whatever reason. Cognitive dissonance was first identified and defined by MIT Stanford social psychologist Dr. Leon Festinger in 1957. The theory of cognitive dissonance, that's what he called it. Festinger taught us that to reduce this dissonance or stress, we must either change our beliefs. This is what Jimmy was talking about. We must either change our beliefs, our morals, or our attitudes, right? Attitudes about deities, Old Testament, New Testament, right? Change our behavior. To become a scholar requires a change in behavior, doesn't it? You have to sit, read, study, think, imagine. Whereas to believe something, you don't have to do anything, right? You just go to church or go to the camp or, whatever. Okay, we must either change our beliefs, morals, or attitudes, or change our behavior, or change the way we perceive the behavior. Or we will continue to experience the stress caused by dissonance. Now, when people get stressed, let's go to the next paragraph. Since stress has its own consequences, like blowing air into a balloon. Now, y'all know stress kills, right?
Absolutely.
Like blowing air into a balloon, unless we figure out how to successfully relieve the stress caused by the dissonance, something's going to pop. In other words, you're going to go off on somebody, right? Some folks pop by creating addictions to relieve their stress. Others might develop symptoms such as compulsive behaviors like what? Gambling. Okay. Another type of addiction might be sex addictions, drug addictions, right? Anger issues. So someone becomes combative or argumentative in the chat, or they'll call in combative or argumentative instead of being intellectual and academic, scholarly. Or mood disorders. They may feel sad, afraid, angry, worried, nervous. When addicts hit the bottom or symptoms get out of hand is when many folks seek a counselor, therapist, or psychiatrist. Okay, let me repeat that. Well, let's stop right there. Okay, so this is what you can expect from cognitive dissonance. Now, some people, it'll happen as very mild. For other people, it's extreme, and they need to get professional help. So, if you feel some discomfort as we go through this information, please be aware that you are experiencing cognitive dissonance, and it's normal to experience cognitive dissonance when you are confronted, or when you learn about, when you see information that conflicts with your deeply held values and beliefs. So please remember that. Don't become argumentative in the chat. Don't call in argumentative or combative. Be respectful and learn, and just be aware of what your thoughts are and what your feelings are. Breathe deeply when you're experiencing the cognitive dissonance and just work through it. Okay, and do the meditations that I do on the YouTube channel, right? So go through those meditations, and if you prefer, there are other meditations, but you can make it through. That's the point. You can make it through the cognitive dissonance, okay? And you will be better off, and stronger, happier, and richer for having done so, because the Most High will appreciate your effort, your persistence, and your consistency to return to him. All right, Jimmy, that's it. That's all I have to say. You have anything else?
You know, as you talk about cognitive dissonance, I'm really passionate about it, Dr. Issappa, because I've been through it. And you remember, I've been through it, calling you and expressing a few things that was very difficult for me to understand as I was going through the confusion phase, because you do go through different phases with this. Mm-hmm. I was particularly in a situation, as I'm learning this, I was still required in a weekly basis to go stand on a pulpit and teach people what I have become to realize is not true lies. Let's call it for what it is. So as I'm coming into the truth, I have the responsibility of still standing on a pulpit speaking. And a lot of times it's right after coming from one of your sessions, Dr. Issappa. I don't know if you recall. As I'm coming out of the session, and sometimes I have to lag out earlier because, hey, I have to get ready, to present. And it's not an easy thing. It's truly not an easy thing. Yashe in the chat say, it's like being married to a killer, but don't want to accept it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the analogy. I really do. It's hard. It's hard. I mean, because when you met that individual, you didn't know it was a killer. You were looking to be saved, right? And that's exactly what happened within Christianity, right? Often, most people who found that route, who turned that route, are usually people who are down and on their faces, cannot go any lower, looking to be saved. Mm-hmm. And at
what
that
you
point,
think I've done, then do what I do.
Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that happened.
What you have to realize at that moment, that individual is very vulnerable, looking for answers, looking for a solution, whatever it may be. And So here you are being told how there is this savior that can save you, and all you have to do is believe. Well, me personally, coming from Haiti, which has a huge culture of voodooism, you can deify a pen, a picture, a statue, whatever it is, you can deify it. And if you believe in it, it actually works for you. So here's the question: who empowered that pen? Who empowered that statue? Who empowered whatever it is that you believed in that worked for you? Who empowered it? You did. You gave it that power. So who's the true power? According to Psalms 82, verse 6. Who's the true power? Dr. Isapa, you got to stop me, because I can't give away everything that we discuss in class. And, I'll get carried away, man.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And I'm sure the people who, the scholars who hear your words are going to benefit from it. So thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate you. And thanks all the scholars in the audience. Thank you for your comments, for your energy, for your time, for sharing this time with us. We really, really appreciate it. And your comments really, really do make a difference. It makes the videos richer, makes them much richer. So in closing, go to zionlawschool.org and subscribe to the 101 Ancient Ibriath course, and show up this Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that you can get more instruction and you can really, really start to see what Ibriath is and how it works, the science, and you can begin to learn the science of Ibriath, the linguistics. Anything else, Jimmy, before we sign off?
Again, two free classes on Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern time. The link is in it's in there below. Go ahead, register. 2 free sessions. You can't beat this. Again, I quote Dr. Isapa. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Oh, by the way, no more questions or in the chat, or
are we going to be back tomorrow, Dr. Isapa?
Yeah.
Yes, we definitely will be back same time tomorrow. And if you already subscribe and turn on your bell, you will be notified. Children of Jerusalem said this was awesome.
All praises to the Most High.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So scholars, please share this and invite others, and let's. You know what I would really like? I would really like to teach everyone this. Make a movement, give them the information, and then they decide what they want to do with it. Maybe you guys can think about that. Maybe you guys can think about that. I think we as a people would benefit tremendously if we all had this knowledge that we're considering in these videos. So we're going to do this every day until we finish the book. Every day until we finish the book.
It looks like Yashe said, "Tha da wa" for this education.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Our pleasure. So all praises to the Most High. We will see you tomorrow, same time. Shalawama.
Shalawama.